TV party tonight!
What?
TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my crickets!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Blurson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the man-hated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Only Murders in the Building, starring Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, brought to you by the good people at Rhode Island Ave Productions, Another Hoffman Story Productions, 40 Share Productions, 20th Century Television, and Hulu. Joining me this evening from Honeysuckle Rose Creations is Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
Hello, doing well. Just gave Cleo a carrot to munch on. Hopefully she will be distracted long enough before she starts clawing at me again.
So we are really off the beaten path tonight with this one. This is not something we would normally talk about on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. It's not based on a comic book, and it's not for the children like Wu-Tang Clan. So
I still don't get the reference. Mark has renamed everyone in our chat after a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, and the fair-skinned woman from the middle of nowhere, Missouri, looked at it and was like, yeah, don't get the reference, don't get the reference, don't get the reference, don't get the reference. Really don't get the reference. What did you name me after? Don't get the reference.
Yeah, there's actually a movie about the rapper I named you after, the real Roxanne, on Netflix called Roxanne. And it goes to the legacy of early 80s hip hop. But anyway, so we're doing something different tonight. We're doing this Hulu exclusive murder mystery series, Only Murders in the Building. And you had asked if we could review this, and I am curious, what piqued your interest about this show?
This show was first announced on the Disney Investors Meeting in 2020, which you had me taking notes for release dates and potential upcoming information.
Yep.
Still remember sending occasional text to the group chat, and I think at one point I said they're remaking. Oh my God, they just came out with it. It was the movie with Tom Hanks and the Pitbull, and they just remade it. Turner and Hooch.
Turner and
Yeah,
Hooch, right.
Yeah, I think I mentioned they're remaking Turner and Hooch, and I could hear the groans coming from half the staff.
It's been an interesting year on Disney Plus.
Very. But they announced Only Murders in the Building as one of the shows coming to Hulu, and they said this was going to be a comedy crime fiction, and it was starting Steve Martin and Martin Short. And the minute I heard that, I messaged him like, okay, when this comes out, we have to review it. Okay, it's freaking Martin Short and Steve Martin. Okay, how can this not be gold?
So growing up as I did, I was born in 1976, so I grew up with a lot of Steve Martin comedies. By that point, he's part of the golden age of stand-up comedy. Along with many others, many that ended up on Saturday Night Live and were in a lot of early 80s movies, that Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, Andy Kaufman era.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never saw much of his stand-up, though I do remember the one LP he put out where he's got the arrow on his head, stuff like that. But where I was familiar with Steve Martin were movies like, and this tells you how I was raised as a kid, The Jerk, The Man with Two Brains, which as a kid was so funny to me. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's hilarious.
Not the whole thing.
All of Me with Lily Tomlin, which to this day I still quote that movie. I can't go in there. That's the men's room. I love that movie. And of course, one that features both Martin Short and Steve Martin, The Three Amigos, which one of my most favorite memories as a child was the night my dad took me to Taco Bell for dinner, and then we went to go see Three Amigos. Because
Absolutely.
even then, I was a master of synergy.
Oh my God. Three Amigos is one of, I don't think I'm going to call it one of my favorite movies per se, but it is a movie that is impossible to not love. It's just such a classic. It's a staple of comedy. It's hilarious. The chemistry between Martin Short and Steve Martin and Chevy Chase is brilliant. It's such a great film. And yeah, it's been a while since we've seen either of these men in a project.
Martin Short turns up here and there, and weirdly he'll turn up in a drama, which struck me as kind of odd. Another Steve Martin favorite of mine, Little Shop of Horrors. You'll be a dentist. And a success.
Yes, one of the most bizarre villain songs of all, but I love it. Yeah, no, my favorite actually, Martin Short appearance was his guest shot on the original Muppet Show.
Did you watch? No, I never saw his Ed Grimley show. Did you ever watch that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you know the one where he's got the hair. I think that's the name of it. Where he's got the hair parted up.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain. I do, like I said, a bit a fan of Martin Short, but you're right. He does do a lot of dramas. He did a very dark guest spot on an episode I remember of Law and Order SVU not too long ago. Very messed up episode. I do remember getting really upset though because I found out that he and Jason Alexander did the LA production of The Producers.
Oh,
Jason Alexander as Bialystok and Martin Short as Bloom, and I'm like, why couldn't I have seen that? Because that again, that would have been amazing to see that.
I'm trying to see if I've got the right guy for Ed Grimley, but anyway, I know one of the things that I saw Martin Short in as a kid was Inner Space, which if I remember nothing else about that movie, when he screams out "I'm possessed," that always cracked me up.
One of the absolute best adaptations of Fantastic Voyage.
Yes. So I don't know that much about Selena Gomez. This was one of those ones where I'm watching her in this movie, in this TV show, and I'm just peppering my wife with questions like, what is she from? What does she do? And she's like, she's a Disney person. It's fine.
She's been in a couple of Disney shows. She's a pop princess. She's had a couple of singles. It's so kind of funny actually, because she's credited as one of the executive producers on the show.
Yes, they all are. All three of these people.
And no, not a huge fan of Selena Gomez, but she's not terrible. She's just, I didn't grow up in the era of watching her on Disney.
Yeah.
Little to get into her kind of music. I've heard her songs on the radio, and she's not terrible. She's a good singer. So, the thing that stands out to me about her is she's the voice of Mavis in the Hotel Transylvania movies. She is.
That might be the one thing of hers I've seen.
I think it was kind of funny because I was explaining the show to a friend who hadn't heard of it because they don't have Hulu, and I was like, so it stars Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, and on that last one they just did this face because one of these things is not like the other.
Yep. So I do like a good murder mystery, and so this is one of those multi-genre type things: murder mystery, comedy. I love the premise where you have these two elder gentlemen, one's in theater, one's a former actor, and then they get mixed up with this young gal because a murder has taken place in the building. But the other thing I thought was really funny, given what we're doing right this very moment, is they come together because they're all true crime podcast fanatics, which cracked me up.
It's hilarious because this is the kind of thing you actually see when you work at the Comic-Cons like I do, is that you see people who would normally never associate with one another, but the minute they share that same fandom, there's a quote I think from C.S. Lewis. It's like, friendship is born out of the moment you say, you too? I thought I was the only one. Love that quote. Again, I think that's the way it goes. And I've seen stuff like that where it's like you see people who clearly come from completely different walks of life, have no common ground, no common experience. But the minute they find out they read the same books or they watch the same show, it's like, oh, you want to talk about Harry Potter? You want to talk about Lord of the Rings? You want to talk about Sherlock? You want to talk about the Marvel movies? Just the minute, it's like instant kinship. And I love, so when they start going over that and she walks in, she's like, what's in the dog's mouth? And they just sit down and start talking. It's like, yeah, I know that. I know exactly that.
Isn't it? It's kind of, art reflecting life reflecting art. Because I mean, if you look at just this little island called the Radulich Broadcasting Network, we are very dissimilar people, but what brings us together are these common interests, you know, and
Mhm.
these ability to have a conversation about things we all enjoy, and then we go back to our own separate lives, literally all
Exactly.
over the damn planet.
Yeah, no
So,
kidding.
so let's get into it. So the whole premise of this thing, and we're gonna jump around, like Jesse and I did on the Wu-Tang Clan show. We're gonna just kind of jump around here and talk about different aspects of it. So, like, Steve Martin plays an actor who was in a show like Kojak. He plays, he was on a show called Brazos, I think he calls it, and he was an actor.
Brazos, something
Yeah,
like that.
and he was an actor on that show where he played a detective. And Martin Short is a director of musicals, and Selena Gomez is some sort of artist. She's living in her aunt's apartment in this really posh Upper West Side apartment building, and she's there because she's supposed to be redesigning it. They one night they are all exiting from the building, and they end up eating dinner together because they're talking about this true crime podcast that they're on.
Yeah, they've all been the apartment gets the fire alarm pulled. They all have
Mhm.
to vacate. Yeah, Steve Martin and Martin Short's characters both go across the street to this restaurant to hang out while they can't go back in. And yeah, Selena Gomez comes in and she sees them talking about this all is not okay in Oklahoma, and
Mhm.
she joins in, and they spend who knows how long just sitting at this table talking about it.
They go back into their apartment where it's been discovered that Selena Gomez's friend, a guy that they had passed in the elevator earlier in the first episode, has been murdered, or it appears to be a suicide. That is the first inclination of the on-scene detective, is that he committed suicide and case closed. But for whatever the reasons are, maybe you remember more of the details than I do, they think foul play is afoot. And what's funny here is Martin Short, who is fallen on hard times and is on his way out of this building because he can't afford it. But as he says to his son at one point, it's the only thing he has, decides he's going to produce a podcast as sort of a way of making money really, really quick so he can hang on to his apartment. And why does Steve Martin do this? Because Steve Martin is lonely in the show. Steve Martin, he'll talk about having a girlfriend who had a daughter, and he got really close to the daughter, which kind of drove the stepmother nuts, and both of them took off. I want to talk about that really, really quickly, and then I'll get you to weigh in here. We don't find that out till later, after he's been starting to date Amy Ryan's character for a little while. And by the way, do you know where Amy Ryan is from?
Where?
The Wire season 2, among
Check
other
off
places.
your bingo cards, folks.
Anyway, she's been in lots of other things too, but that's where I first saw her. In any case, the first time you get an inclination that all is not right with Steve Martin is is like the middle of the night, and he's making an omelet with peppers, and he kind of takes a sniff of it and then dumps it right in the garbage. And he does this a few times before he starts to open up a bit and tell you why he's doing that. And I thought, this got a lot of praise for its writing, and this is one of those indicators of that there's a lot of detail. Not everything has to be in service of this murder mystery. There's a lot of great character moments here, a lot of quiet character moments.
Absolutely. You really pick up a lot about the characters just from seeing them in their apartments and how they interact. Not everything has to be spelled out. Although when they do go into exposition, it doesn't feel forced. Like you said, you get this really great bit where Martin talks to Jan, that's Amy Ryan's character, and explains about his last relationship. And you feel it. Not to mention the scene where you find out he's like, and I'm sitting alone with Bugs and Porky because I paid extra for them to appear. And you cut to him sitting at this birthday table kind of thing with these two people in costume chasing around him, and he looks so despondent.
Right.
Again, it works really well. You have the scene where Martin Short's character is talking about Splash the musical. And exactly why that failed so miserably. Here's a hint. Pools and stages don't mix.
I know that you're not.
But again, it doesn't feel forced. It's like not only are these amazing actors who have a real passion for their craft and a great ability to just really help you visualize what they're talking about.
Yeah. I thought we were in danger in the very beginning, where it opens up with Steve Martin's narration, and then Martin Short gets a bit of narration, and Selena Gomez gets a bit of narration, and they all have this broadcasted inner dialogue, inner monologue, and I was like, oh god, I hope the whole thing's not like this. And it turns out it's not. It's a way of introducing the characters. It's a way of getting you into this world, but they abandon it quickly enough once the action gets going, which I was really happy with. So I can deal with a little bit of that in the beginning, but if this was, you got to understand, and I don't know how much of this you've watched or if you've paid attention to anything we've talked about in the chat. You is constant inner monologue.
I have not watched.
Go ahead.
I have not watched You at all.
Save yourself. But
you guys talk about it enough. I don't feel the need to watch it.
I've done you a service. But that show is all inner monologue, and that first season of it is insufferable. I can only deal with so much of that. You know, I don't know if that's what your thoughts on inner monologues or not, but like when used sparingly, they're a great framing device. When used constantly, it's just like someone banging on pots and pans for me.
The inner monologues work in this because the framing of the show is that these guys are recording podcasts.
Right.
So the way that they speak, it doesn't really sound like inner monologue or exposition. It sounds like they're telling a story on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds not overly narrative. I think the word I'm looking for. Not to mention the fact that it's not just them. We have other characters, even though they don't contribute to the podcast. We get to have their input as well, and they speak in the same way, and it works.
There's a really great transition where you get Steve Martin's bit of narration, but he's actually, but as you're pointing out, he's actually recording the voiceover for the podcast, and he's playing what's it, a concertina. And so you hear the concertina, and then he's actually playing it, which I thought was really funny. And then there's
sorry, go ahead.
And then there's a bit about it where you know, because Martin Short and Steve Martin have great comic chemistry together. Mm-hmm. And when he's kind of giving Steve Martin crap about the concertina, you know, it's like this makes it classy. It makes it really authentic sounding. And he's, you know, Martin Short gives him crap about it. I laughed pretty hard.
Exactly. And I was about to say, Steve Martin actually was playing the concertina. That is one of several instruments he does know how to play.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So as the plot moves forward, they decide they're going to, even though the cops have blown this off and say case closed. I guess there are other concerted parties that we're going to find out are involved in this, and they would like this opening shut. The cops have enough evidence to support a suicide theory. Good enough for government work. Let's close the book on this. But you know, Martin Short wants to pursue this because he thinks this is good grist for the mill, to make a podcast out of it. He needs the money. Martin Short doesn't have a whole lot else going on in his life.
Keep talking. I'm going to throw this one outside before he annoys the crap out of us. Give me a second.
And Selena Gomez doesn't believe her. What we'll find out is her former friend would have actually offed himself. She thinks he was murdered. The interesting thing about the Selena Gomez character is she's a bit of a mystery all on her own. Selena Gomez's character has a lot of, it takes a good couple of episodes, probably about half of this show, for her to reveal that they were friends. They were part of a group. I think she called them her Hardy Boys. That they had a falling out, that her friend was pushed off a roof. Another friend took the rap for it, but even that was suspect. And she's keeping all of this from Martin Short and Steve Martin until she can no longer hide it from them, and you know, and everything comes out in the wash. I think, and I want to give credit where credit's due. Selena Gomez, people might want to write off as, oh, that's one of the Disney kids, you know, or she just does a lot of light stuff. She does a really, really good job. She gives a really good performance in this show. It's very understated, but it's understated in service of the fact that she's keeping a whole ton of secrets and she doesn't want to be found out. And she's also, you know, not a kid, she's an adult, but she's very young, especially compared, and they make a lot of jokes about this, especially compared to Steve Martin and Martin Short. Mm-hmm. So I just want to, and I'll get you to weigh in on this, I just want to say Selena Gomez really holds up her end of the acting stool in this.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people, when they found out she was going to be in this, again, it was like, wow, Martin Short, Steve Martin, what the hell is Selena Gomez doing here? But she does a phenomenal job. She has very good chemistry with both of these actors. And I never once found her character irritating or annoying. And that's another thing. She's played off originally like the very aloof, standoffish millennial. You know, she doesn't want to talk to anyone in the building. She clearly doesn't have friends, which we learn is because of everything that she's gone through. And, you know, she's just kind of gone through hell, and she is keeping to herself for this. But it works. You know, again, this is a character that has been done many times before and has been done very poorly and has been extremely annoying. She is not that in this at all. It does take her a while to really warm up to working with them. There are a few times, especially earlier in the season, where it's clear that she is not as enthusiastic as the guys are. And I think part of that is as we find out she's more involved in the mystery than we originally suspect.
Yes.
And that's the other thing I actually want to mention. It's going to sound weird, but there's actually a really good mystery in this series. I was very worried that we were either going to find out the answer too early, and then, you know, we were going to have to watch everyone bumble as they try to figure it out. But there is a legit, the series is very well written. And the mystery of who killed this character is quite fascinating. And they sprinkle a lot of breadcrumbs very early on that you as the audience learn, and you learned it, and you start deducing them with the characters. One of the biggest MacGuffins that lead to figuring out what's going on is this emerald ring that we see Mabel's friend wearing the night she dies. And they mention it or something, so it's like, oh, Chekhov's gun, the ring, and we know it's going to be important, but then it doesn't come into the picture until a little bit later, and it's like, okay, so what's going on with the ring? You find yourself getting very entwined in the mystery, as a good murder mystery should do.
Yeah, there's a lot of red herrings. So we'll fast forward a little bit. Martin Short, who actually, let me talk about Martin Short for a second. It is so easy for Martin Short's very eccentric Broadway theatrical character to be grating. They also could have written him as very stereotypical, and there's touches of it, because I think, look, even for someone like me, you know, who's been doing podcasts forever, you know, and is on camera now, there's a certain theatrical flair. We all have it. You know, we wouldn't be in a performance medium. And so I think that to have that absent of him would have, you know, would not have been believable. But it also tends to, the kind of hackneyed writing in Hollywood, they tend to overdo that, and the character just becomes a caricature of that kind of a person. And they actually gave him a lot of depth, and they toned that down. And one of my favorite scenes in this entire show is when he goes to his son to ask for money. And I did not see that coming. It's very early on. It might only be the first or second episode. And, you know, he comes across as a bit of a flake. You know, he definitely, there's a lot of discussion of him having fallen on hard times after blowing Splash the musical. But he was a success before that. And so, you know, there's just a lot there. And I have to give credit where credit's due in the writing and Martin Short's performance of being presenting an engaging character that didn't get on my nerves, because it was entirely possible that was going to happen.
And unfortunately, Martin Short has shown that he has I don't like using this phrase, but he has a talent for playing annoying characters. Not going to lie, when I watched an episode or two of Jiminy Glick,
Oh my God.
I do not get why that was so popular. I remember watching going, it's like,
because it was a fat guy falling on the floor, and fat people falling is funny. Melissa McCarthy has made a career out of it.
Yeah, but it's not a fat guy falling. It's Martin Short in a fat suit.
Correct.
Again, Martin Short has a history of playing very over the top buffoons.
Yes,
and there is a talent for that. But I was a little worried at first that was what we were going to get out of him. But they did a good job of keeping him. Again, he is a bit more the clown in the group than Steve Martin is. Martin is funny, but he's a little bit more the straight man.
By the way, nice callback to Jiminy Glick. I haven't thought about that character since that was on the air, and that was 100 years ago. Now I'm having memories of Jiminy Glick moments where he's like, so tell me about the first time you masturbated, and it's like, what the hell? And then he's like, just falls over the desk, that kind of thing.
The only reason I even remember that is because of a Family Guy reference where
Really
Stewie
does.
imagines himself as Jiminy Glick.
Oh, is that what that was? I never picked up that reference before.
There's an episode, I think it's one of the earlier seasons, where he imagines himself that. And that's the only main reason I still remember that, because I have tried so hard to push the rest of that show out of my brain.
I find it hilarious and maybe ironic that, thinking to 20 minutes ago, I referenced Ed Grimley, completely forgot about Jiminy Glick. And therein lies our age difference, everyone. Anyway, yes. But the scene with Martin Short and his son is really played well. Martin Short doesn't want to ask his son for money, but he doesn't know what else to do. He's desperate. And it's a weird thing because I don't think the building has a tremendous amount of personality, but it clearly means something to Martin Short. And it means something to Steve Martin. And because of the tragedies that have befallen her, it means something to Selena Gomez. And I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like the building should have maybe had more personality, but it just kind of, as a backdrop, as a setting, it just feels like a building. They're nice apartments, but they should be. They're the Upper West Side.
I think it would have helped if we had seen more of the actual building that could have helped establish it more as a character. In the end, we only see the majority of time we're in one of the one of the four apartments, Mabel, Charles, Oliver, or Tim's. We occasionally see Jan's apartment, not that often. But yeah, we never see any of the other characters where they live and what the inside of theirs is like. So yeah, I think that it would have been better if they had spent more time in various parts of the Arconia. I mean, I refuse to. This is an old building, but I refuse to believe that it doesn't have some more accessible rooms that they could have used.
Well, here's an example of what I'm talking about, and I know you'll agree with this. At least I think I will. Ghostbusters, right? The building is an antenna to bring Gozer the Gozerian, into the world, and Zool is there, and Vince Clortho is there. And so the building plays a major part of the narrative. The building looks cool. It looks ominous. There's ghouls that'll eventually become Zool and Vince, at the top.
Demon dogs. Yeah.
You can tell I just listened to all those podcasts again because I can remember the names of the characters now.
Oh, I just watched both Ghostbusters last night and today while I've been working. I've got them both on my upstairs office computer. They were one of my favorite things to put on in the background.
So, the building itself has presence. And, and even though Dana's apartment and Rick Moranis' apartment is nothing special, the outside of the building looks pretty cool. And you can definitely feel like, okay, this is adding to the ominousness of what's going on in New York City with the Ghostbusters.
Exactly.
I don't get a sense of character from the Arconian. I think that's one of the few criticisms I have is we're spending so much time in this building. This building is supposed to represent something, and it just kind of looks like a building.
We do get a really good representation of the other residents of the Arconia, though, thankfully, and that does help a lot. Even if we don't remember all of the characters' names, we can identify majority of them. We have that very creepy cat lover. We have the African woman who wants Tim's apartment. We have the bitchiest landlady, or I guess she's like head of the HOA, so to speak.
It's not the most pleasant painting of New York City residents. Steve Martin passes one of his neighbors. He gives him the finger. You have the landlady who's just awful. When they have Tim's funeral and nobody can talk about Tim or whatever it is, but they're all talking about other stuff, and it's like it's not great. It's funny, but it's an awful picture of New York City.
It's New York City,
I suppose. All right, so I want to talk about Nathan Lane and the guy that plays his son, who is deaf. And I know you had a lot of thoughts about the silent episode, so I'll set this up and then you can take it from there. But so Nathan Lane plays a rich businessman who Martin Short has worked for in the past, and they show it in flashbacks. He gets him to sponsor the podcast. You find out he's sponsoring the podcast because he has ulterior motives related to the murder/suicide of Tim, which is all fine and well. He has a deaf son, and they are intertwined in the narrative related to Tim and the girl that falls off the building. And they spend an entire episode from the perspective of Nathan Lane's deaf son, and it's really artfully done.
Absolutely. First of all, this is not a role I have seen Nathan Lane really play before. Again, very similar to Martin Short, he often plays very flamboyant, over the top characters.
He's like
And
most known for what do you call it? The Birdcage.
the Birdcage, Timon and Pumbaa, things like
Mhm.
that. And or again, going back to the producers, Max Bialystock.
Yes.
And again, he's a brilliant actor.
Mhm.
But when I saw that he was in this, again, I was thinking, oh, here comes more of the buffoonery.
I'll tell you, have you ever seen Nathan Lane play like a really ominous, threatening character?
No.
Because when he does, it's really scary because he's normally you see him as that Birdcage character,
Yeah.
where he's an elderly gay person and and then he has to dress up as a woman and it's phenomenal. The Birdcage is a really outstanding movie.
Nathan Lane exemplifies Broadway. I
Yeah.
think there's just something about him that is so. This is a man who, whenever he talks, you ever see him in even just performing,
Mhm.
it screams, "Life is a performance." That's what you get out of him.
Acting genius line. That's John Lovitz.
Again, not against him. I love that we
Mhm.
have someone like that. So, but
But
I would not have picked him to play Teddy Demas.
He can turn it on and be really threatening and really threatening when he wants to. Like he can be downright scary.
Mhm.
Which, like I said, when you compare it to some of his other like more flamboyant performances, you're like, how did it's like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey plays the buffoon, but can also be very, very serious and downright scary when he wants to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the actor who plays his son Theo, first of all, the character is deaf and the actor is deaf. That is James Caberly, who is a deaf actor. So credit to the staff and everything for being more inclusive with that. I was very impressed with the use of ASL in
This is
this.
a thing in Hollywood now, right? I know, like they got rid of the guy that was voicing Cleveland because he was Cleveland on Family Guy because he wasn't black, and there just seems to be a movement towards trying to keep things consistent in terms of black people should voice black people or play black people. Obviously, deaf people should. We have deaf actors out there. Let's get them playing deaf characters, like Makari from Eternals being another example.
I call it the Apu movement.
Another good one.
Well, no, because it started with that documentary
Mhm.
about Indian actors who are often played by non-Indian or
Okay.
Indian roles that are not often played by non-Indian actors. And they did this massive thing about Hank Azaria voicing Apu,
Mhm.
and how Matt Groening and his crew basically had to come out and say, look, we started the show in the early 80s.
Right.
This was okay then. The show is still going on.
Mhm.
Things have changed. We don't know really what you want us to do.
Right.
And
Have
even
you-
Hank Azaria was like, look, you want me to stop voicing the character? I'll stop voicing the character.
Have you ever seen the show Legit with Jim Jeffries?
No,
Are you familiar with the comedian at all? Jim Jeffries?
slightly.
Okay. Real quick, Jim Jeffries did a show based on a routine he did about his handicapped friend that he took to a whorehouse. And when they developed the show based on the life of his friend, they wanted to have a handicapped person play him. They actually cast brought in an entire group of potential actors who all had a variety of issues. So because they wanted to be as authentic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to this.
So yeah, like I said, props to them. And Caverly does. I'm not familiar with a lot of stuff he's done. I looked him up on IMDb. He's had a decent career, but not a lot of stuff I'm familiar with.
Right.
Fingers crossed that he gets picked for more stuff because he was really good in this.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we get an episode that takes place almost entirely from Theo's point of view, as we see how he has played a major part in everything that's happened, and he was the one who murdered Mabel's friend completely by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I
didn't even think he pushed her. It looked like she shoved herself off of him and then took a bump off the building.
That's kind of what I thought at first.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about his character is that you get the impression that he wants to turn himself in. He is not. He doesn't run to his father saying, "Get me out of this. Get me out of this." He's throwing up. He is sobbing. He is terrified. again, it's not spelled out, but I have this distinct feeling that were Teddy Demas not involved in the jewelry theft business that we find out later that he is doing, Theo probably would have turned himself in and said, yeah, it was my fault, but it was an accident.
Right.
But again, he knows that if the police start looking into this, and they would, because they would investigate what happened. Good chance they're going to find what the Demases have been up to.
Yeah, I have to really be very critical of that scene because I watched that very closely, and I think I had to go back and watch it one more time. He doesn't throw her. It's told as if he threw her off the roof. That's not what happens at all. She's pushing him away, but her back is to the building, and it's not. And here's the thing: this is a little bit of weakness of the writing. It's not believable she'd have fallen like that. That wall is high enough where she has to actually get up over the wall in order to fall that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about like Cruella, where we had the kind of a similar discussion where it was like, how did you manage that? You had to have jumped. Like there's no way you went over naturally. The dog, pushes her off the cliff. That's what it was. And we were all like, nope, that's not believable. Kind of a similar thing.
It's like that dog must have weighed a freaking. I know Dalmatians are not small dogs, but that dog must have weighed like at least 3 Cleos to have the kind of
the
weight
dog
to push her like
that.
that.
With that kind of momentum, the dog would have went over too, and the dog somehow or other didn't. And I'm like,
basically, no. Yeah, the dog does the Resident Evil jump flip kick off of her,
and then lands like Scarlett Johansson.
Such a poser.
That's such a poser. So this is a similar thing. I mean, it's a minor detail. It's just one of those things where I think in setting up that scene, I don't think anyone thought it would be scrutinized like this, but I looked at it and I'm like, nope, there's no way. And I think it's because I watch so much wrestling and stuff like that. Like, I understand enough about body movement that if you and I are struggling up against that wall and it's at least waist high, you still have to get off the ground for that to happen. She's shoving him away from her and somehow or other high jumped over the wall and fell to her death.
Yeah, again, I'm not exactly sure. I'm willing to chalk a lot of it up to disbelief, to the fact that she had probably been drinking, to the fact that Theo probably is a lot stronger than he thinks. So he did. I'm sure he pushed her. Again, I'm with you. It looks like she pushed herself, but like that. But I'm pretty sure it was meant to convey that he pushed her. And there are certain things like, if the story is good enough, I'm willing to let it slide.
Yeah,
this is a minor nip.
Yeah, I am quibbling at this point because nothing can be perfect.
But yeah, so
except for The Wire. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we get this entire episode done from Theo's point of view. There is no audible dialogue. Everything is conveyed either through Theo reading lips, which we see he can do, and he can do it to the level I am. Again, maybe a nitpick here, but there's at one point he's reading the lips of these people who are talking to this on the side like this, and I'm just like, okay, how can you read that without being able to see the whole mouth? Just are they enunciating that well?
Yeah. I just want to take a real quick, just because I was going to do this a little earlier, but I want to let people know that we are giving away a offering of the free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. I should have done that when you were taking the dogs out. Anyway, I was stuck on Selena Gomez at the time. Anything else?
Sorry, I got him to stop barking.
Correct. So anything else about Nathan Lane and his son in that whole episode?
Yeah, like I said, that's a really brilliant episode because there is no actual dialogue, no audible dialogue. Everything is conveyed either through ASL, reading lips, music. Yeah, music or subtle cues. You get this very creative scene of Charles and Jan playing Scrabble.
Oh my God. I want to talk about them at length, but go ahead and describe it.
Yeah, so they start spelling out certain suggestive words, and it just keeps building and building, and you could see the sexual chemistry building between them while they're putting words like wood, hard, wet,
Yeah.
yum. And it was so creative.
Sexy Scrabble was the second most adorable thing in this show. I was
Go
laughing
ahead and talk
pretty hard
about the
at that.
first.
Yeah, so when thinking about sexual chemistry, the first two people that don't come to my mind are Steve Martin and Amy Ryan. But I'll be damned, you mad geniuses, you did it. You somehow got 100-year-old Steve Martin and slightly less than that Amy Ryan to appear sexy and cute on television. It's amazing. So she plays an oboe player in an orchestra.
Bassoon.
A bassoon, yeah. She plays a bassoon in an orchestra, and he's got his concertina. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
And she's playing out the window, so he duets with her, and it's a most adorable thing I've ever seen. And
It was,
and they end up
cute.
dating, and even their first date, which is hella awkward, is amazing. Like they even like. She's sharing, and like red flags are popping up for him, and he's kind of traumatized by what happened with his previous relationship and Lucy, the daughter. And so he's kind of just clumsy waitering his way through this date, and it ends poorly. And then he runs up to her later on, and he like just blurts all of this stuff out, and they have a second date, and they are just the most lovely, scrumptious, gorgeous, cutest couple I've ever seen. And spoilers, she tries to murder him later. And even when she does that, she's just melted butter wonderful. It is the weirdest scene, because like there's not a single bit of menace about it. Meanwhile, she's like allegedly she did poison Steve Martin, but you would think that it would come across as more mustache twirly, especially with some of the dialogue she's given, which is a bit hackneyed. But Amy Ryan, again, you mad genius, you pulled it off. It's a pretty interesting sight to behold.
Yeah, her character is she's crazy. She is completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I have to ask you, as a woman, especially as a woman, and we don't have to get into personal detail, but I wanted your visceral reaction to this. As a woman who has a lot of guy friends and may sometimes find herself the object of ridicule amongst a large group of guy friends, how did you feel watching her in the scene where they've got the fans, her, and I think one or two other people, and they're trying to piece together this mystery, and she is utterly dismissed?
I hate to say it, I was actually kind of on Oliver and Mabel's side. Because this is actually something that I have dealt with a lot when I have had projects that I've been working on in a group. It may be working with my crew for one of the Comic Cons. It may be some freelancing stuff that I do. But somebody has invited their significant other along, and the significant other is trying to jump in.
You see it from the other side.
Yeah, and we're all going, it's like, okay, Yoko, sit down.
You're out of the band.
No, this has happened so many times. Hell, I'm actually working as a gaffer for a friend, lighting director.
Your horror friend?
Yeah, for my horror director friend. And his girlfriend has just gotten a small part in the movie that we're shooting. And I have been giving him such a hard time because I know his girlfriend. She is so nice. She is so sweet. And she's going to do so well. But I am giving him just hell for this. I'm like, yeah, always room in the production for the director's girlfriend, right? Just because he knows how it looks.
Right.
So... But yeah, no, I was with the others. It's just like, okay, honey, at least it's
a relatable scene for you, but you're not sympathetic towards Amy Ryan. You were sympathetic towards everybody else who was like, shut up, Amy Ryan.
Exactly. And it's so funny when you actually, now that you know the ending and you look back on that scene and you realize she was purposely trying to confuse them.
Right.
Because she was terrified if they were going to get too close to the Demuses, then they'd find out that they're not the killers. Well, not this Tim Kono killers. They killed someone else.
I struggled with that, though, because she comes across like the bride from the Haunted Mansion at the end. where it's just like, well, I like to have these boyfriends, and when it's reached its natural conclusion, I gotta kill them. These are things that happens. It's on my list of things to do today: buy groceries, kill boyfriend.
Well, it's so funny because the maid, he breaks up with her, but the reason
Mhm.
that she kills him, besides being broken up, is that he gets the green ring. Finally, he gets it back.
Right.
And this is one of the linchpins that he can use to prove the Demas's jewelry racket.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees the ring, and she's convinced he's bought it for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that MacGuffin comes in and it has a huge part of it because, I mean, I don't know, she might have still killed him, but I'm wondering if he hadn't found the green ring in time, would she still have thought he was going to, go for someone else?
Mm-hmm.
Or he had been cheating on her or something, which he wasn't.
So, just a couple of quick things. The detective comes back later on. She realizes she goofed. There are some things about the investigation that were not followed up on appropriately, which leads her to believe that there's a cover-up taking place, and she assists our intrepid heroes in trying to uncover things. She knows she can't get directly involved, but she's kind of like a deep throat character where she's like, yeah, I'm gonna help you out on the sly, but don't use my name with any of this, that sort of thing. I liked her character. I've seen that actress in a bunch of other things, very similar to the way she plays this one. I thought she did a good job. The series is not afraid to take some time away from our leads to go show other people in their world, and so they show her with presumably her wife and her unborn baby, and there's a conversation that takes place about are you sure you have all the answers? Go back and check, that sort of thing. So I liked her character. That's another one who could have been written piss poorly, but they stayed away from a lot of the caricature type tropes that go along with the jaded New York City detective.
Exactly. And I'm not gonna lie, I love her introduction when she basically tells our three main characters to go piss off.
Yeah, you people and your true crime podcast. And I had debated whether or not I even wanted to bring that up, but we have been making fun of people like that on Metal Hammer of Doom recently. Just like, boy, if there's one thing white people love these days, is true crime podcasts. I think I said in the thing earlier, I did a talk at my kid's school today about being a podcaster and all of that. And they're like, what kinds are out there? I'm like, well, the most popular kinds are true crime. Ask your parents.
Well, it kills me because that is actually an issue the police have had. There have been a lot of articles and statements and everything from the police. They talk about how not only true crime podcasts, but true crime crime-based shows like Law and Order and CSI and things like that have grown in such massive popularity that they have to deal with so many people who watch these shows all the time, and they think they think they know what they're talking about. They think they can interact with the cops, and it's like, okay, you just binged like 5 seasons of Law and Order SVU. I'm a 10-year veteran of the force. You go away.
Right.
So I really do get her exasperation with it because this is definitely something she has dealt with. She's like, oh my God, I don't care which podcast you people listen to. Go away. Just you feel that, and I love it. And again, she doesn't really start looking for it until her wife clues her in on what's going on with the podcast. And I thought that was really kind of a clever way of working it back in, because she could have been written as she's just very stubborn. It's like, I'm the police officer, I know what I'm talking about. And I was worried also we were going to get like a cover-up story arcs, and when we find out that the toxicology report didn't go through and the cell phone forgot, that never comes back up. So unless this is something that's going to be discussed in season 2, which I kind of doubt, I have the sneaky suspicion they're simply saying this was an overlook by somebody, and she's just not in a position to go to her boss and say someone screwed up.
So the whole thing with this show is they think the Demases are involved in Tim's murder. They are involved in thieving, but they did not actually kill him. They threatened him to keep silent, but it did not cross over into murder. Turns out he was dating Amy Ryan, and they broke up for whatever the reasons were. I don't remember what the details are. But then she ends up killing him because because white women be crazy, essentially. And the whole thing ends with her trying to poison Steve Martin. They end up, I forget how does this. I know the whole thing is resolved in the basement between the four of them, but I don't remember how.
She goes down there. One of the things that's established early on in the series is that all the apartments have working fireplaces.
Oh, she's gonna blow the building up. That's it.
I don't know if she was going to burn the building up or if she was just causing a massive gas outpouring and was going to poison everyone through like
No,
carbon
she was gonna
monoxide
blow.
poison.
She was gonna blow. She had the gas turned on, and she was gonna set it on fire and blow everybody up. If I remember correctly.
Again, it could have been either or, but Tim Kono had apparently. It's actually kind of funny. Again, they find out Tim Kono was not a likable person at all, and he had made sure that the fireplaces were turned off because I guess since they're all connected, it aggravated. Did he say he had asthma or his allergies or something? I don't know.
Jan tries to gas the whole building via the newly opened fireplaces, but the trio run into the Arconia basement and stop it. Okay. So
yeah, I think she was. I don't think she was going to turn it on because I don't think she was going to blow it up because that would involve everyone turning on their fireplaces.
I think that's the impression I got because of the fireplace. But it seems like you're right. It was just she was going to gas everyone to death. And they stop her. There's a great bit where because Steve Martin has been poisoned, he can't talk and he has no control of his legs, and he gets and then he kind of. Like Will from the Princess Bride gets up and confronts her and has this really great heroic speech, but it's all in his mind because he can't get out of the damn stroller. The doggy stroller they put him in is really funny. But yeah, she gets knocked out or something like that and ends up going to jail. This whole thing ends with now everything is resolved. The Demuses have been caught and they're going to jail. She's been caught. She's going to jail. Everyone's going to live happily ever after. But oh no. Selena Gomez goes downstairs. There's sirens. They run in after her. She's a bloody mess. The landlady is dead, and they three are carted off to jail for only murderers in the building. Season 2, which reminds me, we never talked about Tina Fey.
Very nice little cameo on her part. She plays a very famous, very wealthy true crime podcaster. And I love when they get a meeting with her and she's talking about her past stuff and everything. Not to mention, I also love that when the first thing that she says to them when they say they want to get better at what they do, she's like, well, there's a course I'd actually recommend up at Southern, University of New York. And that just kind of killed because it was like, okay, it's like she's actually pushing them somewhat in the right direction. She's not. Right. She's basically saying this isn't a get rich quick thing. Okay, don't do that.
No, it's not.
But I do love she's got a whole team working and writing with her.
Yeah.
And with one of her assistant actually comes up with a new name. She's like, I wrote that. And if you doubt it, you're going to go work for PBS.
Yeah. She, look, I know Tina Fey rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Politics aside, when she's just told act, she's great. She has a nice presence about her. Her and Janine Garofalo play that kind of character very well. It's kind of a shame that the thing that they're known for and either loved or hated is their involvement in politics, their perspective on things, because they're both just fine actresses. Janine Garofalo is really funny, but all anyone ever thinks about her is she's the liberal commie who hates America. And it's like, once upon a time, she was just a comedian.
Well, it's also true that Tina Fey is a good voice actor. She played 22 in Soul not too long ago, and we all agreed how amazing she was in that. So she was a good choice to play a podcaster. Again, we needed somebody with a very clear, distinct, but still commanding voice, and she delivers that very nicely.
Yep.
I mean, I think you and I can agree that not everyone is cut out to talk on the radio like this. I think we can agree there's some people on our network that aren't cut out for that. Thanks. Sorry, was that
apparently
the just got hit in the head of the dog's tail.
Whoever it is you're talking about, your dog disagrees. Anyway,
you don't know who I'm talking about.
Let's wrap up. I'm gonna kind of give my final thoughts here, and then anything left unsaid, anything else you want to talk about, the floor is yours, and then we'll cut out. But I really enjoyed this series. It's I believe it's about 30-minute episodes. This was a 5-hour binge. It moves very quickly. It's really likable characters. This thing is definitely propped up by its performances and a well-told pulpy mystery. This is not look, I know, especially with you and I have had sort of a contentious this is got gravitas, this doesn't, and everything else. And here's the thing: is this going to speak to to man's to the humanity of man? No, it's just a well-told story. It is a very well-told story, and it's definitely worth the watch. It is not going to change your life in any way, but not all of television has to. Mm-hmm. This is kind of we talk about like peak TV, like the dramas in peak TV. There's another level to them. The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Wire, Shield, all of that. I would not put it at that level, but it is darn good and probably going to win an Emmy or two. I know it's been nominated. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and have your final word. I'm actually going to see. I'm actually going to pull up what this might be in line to win come award season.
Really glad that this is getting a second season. I really love this show. I've talked to so many people who said this is their favorite thing that's come on Hulu. Well, just TV in general. Within the last year or so. This is so cleverly written. It's got a really good mystery, and I cannot wait till season 2 and we get to find out who killed Bunny. And where do we send and how do we send them a cake? I do love Selena Gomez's line after they catch the killer and Bunny finally admits that she won't evict them. But she's like, I'll find another way to kick you out. And she's like, congratulations, you're now the most hated person in this apartment.
So this was nominated for, it looks like, for 3 People's Choice Awards. Best Comedy Show of 2021. Obviously, this is pending because this hasn't happened yet. And then Selena Gomez and Steve Martin were both nominated for Best Comedy TV Star of 2021. This has, according to the Wikipedia page, this has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.9 out of 10 based on 73 critic reviews. And it has on Metacritic, it's 76 out of 100 based on 34, indicating generally favorable reviews. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B. And it's got the series turns out to be like The Princess Bride, Galaxy Quest, or Jane the Virgin, that rare and wonderful thing. The parody that also offers a great example of the genuine article, and that came from Alan Sippenwall of Rolling Stone. So, we recommend it. Apparently, the trades recommend it. Everyone's recommending it. It's on Hulu if you got it. I mean, you could watch Dope Sick, but maybe watch this first. Or, because it's for the children, watch Wu-Tang: An American Saga.
So now that we've agreed we're not talking about Eternals anymore, this is what's going to fill up the chat every waking moment and make me want to mute you guys every time I'm in a
Probably
I'm
not,
busy.
because only Jesse and I are the ones that watched it. No, I think that's going to end up being you at this point. YOU, not you, Alexis Hejna.
I know.
Okay.
I got the reference.
Okay, so that wraps it up. I have watched 1 million hours of television this week. I'm happy to finally get a break. This week, starting Sunday, we started releasing all of our old Ghostbusters stuff, because Ghostbusters, as we're recording this, Ghostbusters Afterlife comes out in wide release tomorrow. We'll review it Tuesday on
I'm going late night tomorrow night with one of my best friends. It's like, can't wait to see this.
And we're actually going, I'm taking my kids Monday. We'll be reviewing it on Damn You Hollywood on Tuesday. This week we re-aired our Ghostbusters 2016 review. Jesse and Ronnie Adams talked Ghostbusters Displaced from IDW, and then Sean Comer and I re-aired our Long Road to Ruin on the first 2 Ghostbusters movies. We also reviewed Red Notice, Army of Thieves, a couple of indie wrestling events, Hog Born Again featuring Will Ospreay versus Amazing Red, and XPW Rebirth. Robert Winfrey and I had a fairly pleasant conversation, despite the fact that we didn't like the show. Lock and Key Season 2. Chris Bailey and I reviewed AEW Full Gear 2021, and the aforementioned Jesse Starcher and I reviewed Wu-Tang: An American Saga Season 2. Earlier today, Chris Bailey, Pat, and I did our Mania of WrestleMania 10. Saturday, we are re-airing because of Ridley Scott's House of Gucci coming out this week. We're re-airing our review of The Martian from a few years ago. In the evening, myself and Daniel Lasby will be doing alternative commentary for Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter. And then Thanksgiving week kicks off with our re-airing of Zootopia, and that's because Encanto comes out right before Thanksgiving. And I want to talk about this real quick. we're bringing a new member onto the Radulich Broadcasting family. Elizabeth Faust, in theory, will be joining me. You might have remembered her from when her and my wife did the feminist perspective on Black Widow. She is a musical theater person. She teaches musical theater. She's been in musical theater as a performer and a director. And I'm going to have her on to talk Tick, Tick, Boom from Lin-Manuel Miranda. There's something about Jamie currently on Amazon Prime, and a recording of a live performance of Diana the Musical currently on Netflix, which made my wife want to rip her eyeballs out of her head. So,
well, hooray! I'm not the only woman on the show anymore.
Yes, congratulations.
No, I was just going to say earlier, since you guys are going to be talking about The Martian in honor of Ridley Scott's new movie coming out. I was like, well, if you've been reading his recent news, you should probably just go start reviewing more superhero movies.
I'll leave that up to your good friend over on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. The one thing they talk about. All right. Before I let you do your plugs, just want to remind everybody that the music in this is interesting. Doesn't totally stand out, but there's some interesting choices here. And speaking of music, we are giving away a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. The link in the description is getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Again, it's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network to try out a free 30 days of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. You fill out the information. You can stream all you want. There's 70 million songs on Amazon. If you think of it, it's there. Everything from classical to metal to college radio. You can think of it, it's there. Broadway musicals, as we were just talking about. Anything by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton, Vivo, In the Heights, all of it. It's all there for you on AmazonMusic.com. So click. Don't
forget, he's doing the music for Encanto as well. So we're going to get more songs.
Yep. So go ahead and click that link and get your 30-day trial on us. All right, Alexis, the floor is yours. Tell them about your jewelry. And speaking of Encanto, your Disney trivia, so on and so forth.
Yes, we are going to be recording Disney trivia for Tripped Up Trivia this Saturday. We got a couple of new players coming in, including your wife.
Yes.
Mark. This is going to be fun. Actually, are you playing as well?
No. What I told Jesse was I was willing to play if you needed a fourth. Okay. We seem to have 3 other people plus my wife, so I'm gonna bow out and let her have a good time, and I'm gonna focus on boxing.
Okay, because Jesse and I were talking. We said we weren't against having 5 players if you really wanted to play.
And I told him you're better off with 4.
Okay, no problem. But yes, this is all Disney. It's going to be 3 rounds: Disney movies, Disney TV shows, and Disney parks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to that. And yes, my company, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We make jewelry out of upcycled game pieces. And if you are a fan of the murder mystery style of Only Murders in the Building, be sure to check out our I try to say shop and store at the same time. Our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon, where one of our biggest and most popular items are pieces of jewelry that are made from classic Clue tokens. Or we have charm bracelets, we have earrings. These have been going like crazy this holiday season. I just ordered like 12 new sets of Clue tokens. I'm probably scaring some poor person who thinks I have a very, very serious addiction with role playing as Miss Scarlet or something. So
how could you lose this many game pieces? What's wrong with you?
Oh, when Toys R Us went out of business, I actually remember going in because all of the board games were going for, I think, $10. Mm-hmm. And I just went in and they had like 6 things of Clue left. And I grabbed them all and I put them on the cashier, and the cashier is just staring at me, just like, what the hell?
Do you have like a distributor, like for like individual game pieces? Is there a way to just order the stuff directly from the manufacturer, or do you actually have to buy the finished game?
I actually eBay it. There's a lot of places, a lot of people on eBay who sell batches of game tokens. Among them, we also just got a full complete set of Risk tokens. So I'm playing around with those tonight. So we're going to have some fun with that. Those in the Kansas City area, we are doing a full restock with our wholesalers at both Level 1 Game Shop in the River Market and Mind Games and Magic out in Lee Summit. They're going to have some of our best stuff. And a reminder that we are just about to kick off our Black Friday sale. Starting on Black Friday, everything in our shop is going to be 20% off. And again, that is Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. But this is also kicking off our charity drive. From Black Friday to Christmas Eve, every individual order that we receive, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. This is a wonderful gift for your geeky friends, or just want Santa to bring you something special for yourself. Again, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Shops are on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us here on TV Party tonight in our discussion of Only Murders in the Room Season 1. For Alexis Hejna, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.